Hey guys, it's Matthew here once again. Very quick video just to talk about the events that have happened in PoE that they launched to keep the game running during the last month, I suppose, of the Sanctum League, and mostly about the Krangle League. So the Krangle League is the one that just then started yesterday, or just event. It's a 1 week long event. You have to create a separate little private league for yourself and potentially 5 other people if you want to actually play it. So it's a bit confusing to get into, but basically all the passives are shuffled around on the tree randomly, and then all of the ascendancies amongst all ascendancy classes are randomly shuffled around. So it's actually a very neat concept. I think it's one of the more interesting and fun events we've had in recent memories. It really promotes like exploration and scuffed builds and figuring things out. The problem is it is a bit too blind, so you can't actually see any passives beyond what is next to a passive you've already allocated. And after you've unallocated a passive, you no longer see the passives near it anymore either. So it is extremely blind, and I suppose it's there to promote like community gathering amongst each other, especially if you're supposed to be playing in like a small 6-man party sort of thing. But it ends up being, either everyone just puts together a big Google Doc spreadsheet thing, or it's just way too sort of difficult and painful to traverse. I think it's a good concept, very interesting take on Path of Exile, but I think it needs some serious work to become a bit more fun. And in that, I think it just needs some easier way of going through it. So either sort of a fog of war style thing, so you can see all the passives in a little circle, in a little area, or perhaps more passives are seen after being allocated nearby, so 2 or 3 passives ahead, something like that. Or just something simple as a much larger amount of regrets dropped throughout the league. Or the regret quests give like 10 to 15 passives instead of just 2, because you do end up having to really badly need to regret a lot of points, and the discovery system, the way it currently is, means you basically have to like take screenshots of what you've got, what you've seen, write it down on a notepad or some shit, and then probably make multiple characters through the game so that you can actually start leaning towards a build that works. It just resulted in a very painful experience for your character, which is going to be ultimately dog shit. My character, by level 65, I think it is, has something like 80 passives spent. 20 of them were beneficial to my build. My build had like 15% life, and then probably like 100% increased damage, something like that, and it was supremely difficult to then play the game. It was basically a ruthless mode that isn't ruthless. It was a more fun version of ruthless for me personally, because stuff still drops and you can use things like your movement skills, but it still felt very much like my character was super gimped, and I couldn't do much in the way of building a character at that point. So there's some work to be done there. I think there's potentially a big event in it, especially if it gets worked out to the point where it has a lot of fun in it. I think it could be a 2-week, 3-week, even a month-long league, and it could be an entire league mechanic by itself, for God's sake. It's actually quite diverse in what it could do to the PoE whole landscape. But the way it currently is just way too difficult and way too blind. You're not too in control of what's happening. And then that's kind of what happened this entire league, I suppose. The league, I think Sanctum was amazing, probably the best league we've had. For me personally, I thought that the game was in a pretty good state and the mechanic was amazing. We then had a Gauntlet, which is very, very pain champ, as always. It's just difficult and slows the game down a lot and forces you to build more defensive and do less damage and play on your toes more, which if you're into that, cool. Then from that, the next event that was actually launched was the Ruthless with Gold, and that, once again, just very slow, very pain champ, etc. And then this one, once again, very slow, very difficult, and that's just, it seems like a bit of a misplay for the events. The events should be PoE with a little bit of extra crack in them, and that's what plenty of them have been in the past, and that's really what they should be in the future. Like, instead of just a more painful version of PoE, so that you can then come back to the league and be like, yay, the league's really good again when the new one happens. I get the idea behind that. It should still be something that incentivizes you to log in and actually enjoy it. I'm a bit over just having to struggle harder and harder, and it's just not where it's at. Maybe it is for some people, but I don't think it's a very popular sentiment. On top of that, I do think that the first event that should have happened was the Krangle one, because that would have been fresh in everyone's minds. You know, events are coming, let's have a shot. And then the first one is the Krangle one, the most interesting one. Then maybe the other events where you're like, oh, don't know about that one, maybe I'll try it. Whereas the way this happened, Ruthless with Gold, I think that just turned a lot of people off almost immediately. And then the next one was kind of a group thing, which not many people got to play. And then this one happened. By this point, a lot of people just straight up didn't even realize there were events still on, or PoE had events. So it was a bit of a misplay in that regard. So with that, don't know what else I can really say. I think Krangle event is a really cool one. I think Sanctum was a really cool one potentially, with some fixes. I think Sanctum is an amazing league, so PoE still has plenty of potential to be in the right place, but as far as just suffering for suffering's sake, I don't think that's where it's at for the majority of us anymore. Yeah, don't know if you guys feel the same, but I'm looking forward to the new league and getting back to some real PoE action. Just hope that future events is a bit brighter than the experiments that have happened recently. They are still good that they've been experimenting, but yeah, hopefully more experiments in the right direction, at least for my point of view. Thank you very much for watching. See you guys next time.